So there's been a lot of talk about meatpacking plants, and this basically has to do with about five major companies having some fairly big incidences involving the coronavirus, major outbreaks, and that in turn has led out into small American rural towns that aren't exactly fit to deal with that kind of outbreak. Um, so when this happened, Tyson, which was the company who had to deal with it the most, they ended up putting an ad. As a two-page ad they put out, and they basically warned the country, hey, there's going to be a meat shortage. You're going to have to adjust your eating. We have to shut down about five different locations, and it's going to cut down a lot of meat. And at each plant, just so you know, they process roughly 3,500, or I'm sorry, 1,100 pigs a day, and it was 628 cow, and the chicken was you couldn't even count, honestly. Um, and so you take that times five, that's a lot, and we eat apparently a lot of fucking meat in this country. Um, so the workers kind of, you know, they were falling ill, they're having issues, and it looked like we were just going to have a shortage of meat in this country. There was going to be a supply problem. Well, in steps Donald Trump. Donald Trump decides he's going to sign that executive order that we've all been waiting for him to sign. You know, we thought he would do it when it came to masks, gloves, ventilators, things, that we kind of really needed. Not to say we don't need meat, we do need meat. But he does it on this. And many of the workers retaliate and they say they're not going to work. There's a fight back and forth. Turns out that most of these meat companies have all said the same thing, and that is, look, if you don't show up, then you're fired. We're going to take that as you quit. Not you're fired. I want to be clear on that. It was a voluntary leave. And so that means they don't get unemployment, they lost their health insurance, they're not getting hazard pay. It's a very bleak situation for these people. And I'll be honest with anyone who thinks that, well, I couldn't just walk off my job. No, you probably couldn't, but you might right now because of this. And honestly, if you're sick, most of your companies don't want you there. Here, though, they did an interview with a few of the people who work at these meat packing companies, and they said over the last 2 months, they haven't cared. If you're sick, you have a fever, you're coughing, doesn't matter. You need to be in there, you need to fill that spot, and you need to process that meat. That has been their their objective. Fast as possible. Get it out, get it out, get it out. Don't care your condition. Almost treated like they were third world workers making Nikes. Very, very draconian. Um, and yeah, I have a big issue with workers being treated that way. Look, there's a lot of people on the front line right now, and most aren't getting hazard pay. Most aren't getting what they should for the positions they're putting themselves into. But at least if they're sick, they can stay home. They can die with a little bit of dignity. Unlike a lot of these people who are forced to go in and go in. There's been multiple cases of people passing out on the floor, and anyone who tells you, "Oh, it's not that bad of a job." No, this is one of the worst jobs you can have. I know this because I worked for Tyson for about, and I'm not kidding, I worked there for about a week and a half. It was the worst job I've ever had. You are cramped in there. Um, it's super, super fast. Everyone's yelling. It's hurry the fuck up, basically. You are so close to a person next to you that I legitimately, when I was working, I was trying to avoid them from cutting my hand as I was moving my part of the pig. It was awful. Like I said, I lasted like a week and a half. And if you think, well, you're just kind of a doughboy, you can't handle this stuff. I was a roofer before, And I did that for about 2 years, and I worked at a recycle plant for a year and a half. Oh, an electrician for a year. So I know hard work. This it beyond the pale is what I'm saying. And these people not only had a shitty situation prior to this, it just got a lot worse. I mean, do you really want somebody who has 103 fever and they're getting delirious next to you while they're trying to chop up cow really fast? Yeah, no, I don't think so. I don't think so. Um, so I kind of thought, like, okay, who is it who got Donald Trump to move on this? Who are these draconian assholes who can make the president jump and also treat their workers like they're working in China or India? So I looked into these companies, JBS, the National Beef Packing Company, and I found out that they're all owned by China or Brazil because it's the way they treat their workers. They feel like they can treat Americans that way. And apparently, Donald Trump is cool with that because he's helping them. He's enabling this kind of activity. And look, I'm not trying to sit there and say this is, I'm not trying to be xenophobic about it and say, wow, this is a problem because of the others. They own this. No, I'm trying to say it's a major concern that our food supply is completely, and I looked at other agriculture, by the way, and a lot of it lines up the same as meat does. It's reliant on people from other countries. They own what where our food comes from. They own the process in which we get our food. That's incredibly disturbing. They come into our country, these giant companies, and they buy out the small companies. We've seen this with places like Walmart and Amazon, and they're doing this from other countries now. I've read a story about Hormel and how they were like a family operated and owned company until like the 80s, and they were just bought out overnight basically. Still with the Hormel name, but no, it's owned by um, essentially China. And the thing is that really bothers me is it doesn't matter if you're white, brown, black, whatever. If you are a corporatist douchebag who holds greed over humanity, I have an issue with that. Because the problem is while Donald Trump is facilitating this issue and making it even harder and actually allowing this to happen, aiding this to happen, he's not standing up for the average worker. He's not standing up for those workers who are having to endure this shit. But even more, as these people who are probably living on their own private island right now, not worried about anything, you know, safe and secure in their high rises or their, you know, beach villas, wherever they're at. Places like Emporia, Kansas are being exposed to outbreaks of the coronavirus. An outbreak that could easily send that community and the medical community within it in a downward spiral that could cause a domino effect. Once that hospital's filled, what's going to happen to people that have heart attacks, strokes? That hospital is going to be incredibly overwhelmed and people will die. And it's not even to keep money in America. The people who are making all the money are somewhere else. This doesn't help us at all. And I just found it deeply disturbing to figure out that most of our food is tells this exact same story. And of course the president knows it. And what's he doing? He's harming the American people. He's exposing them to a potential threat that could take out a town almost. Not completely, but you know what I'm saying. You you get 20% of a small town infected with coronavirus. You're going to have much higher deaths than you are in a place like New York, where you have more hospitals, you have a faster process, and people that can handle the situation. When you take a place like Enid, Oklahoma, they've never dealt with numbers that high. They're going to be scrambling. They don't have the supplies. But this is all due to Donald Trump and the big corporations that could give a shit less about the little person, give a shit less about the blue collar worker. This is a problem that, yes, was started by the Clintons and NAFTA and continued with processes like TPP. But as where we thought that this was only affecting other countries, this is massively infecting our country. Anyway, guys, I'm really curious what your thoughts are on that. You guys have a great day. Take care.